You know, you've really highlighted the way that this has backfired on Amazon. What are the lessons?
I mean, I think there's lessons here for both cities and for Amazon. I think, for Amazon, certainly, and this is, I think, politics 101. I'm more on the tech side, but don't you always want to bring in locals and tell you how to deal with the locals? I mean, I think the big lesson here is really that there was a lot of local politics involved, and, they were playing the outsider game when you've really, I think, got to set up shop with the locals.
And they might, John, have thought, well, the mayor, the governor was involved. Bill de Blasio, who's a progressive guy who has his misgivings about business, was involved and signed off on this, and we can trust that he's going to sell this to the city.
They might have thought that, but there's precedent for this being an issue for them. If you look in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, East Palo Alto, Amazon moved in, had some issues. Granted, those were lower paying jobs, but even right now, Google's trying to expand in San Jose, high paying jobs, around 20,000 of them, and there were protesters outside the city council saying housing, not Google. So there are these kinds of issues where if they were paying attention, they should have known that there would be pushback. And hey, the poll numbers were still in their favor. Yeah. So to me, there's still a question of why did they pull out instead of deciding to fight this one? Well,
why would they fight it when all the signs are, it's not just going to be a fight to get the thing started. It's going to be a fight all along the way through and into eternity. What do you think?
I mean, I think Amazon really needed to make a decision between, do we want to pick the place we most want to be, or do we want this bidding war beauty contest reality show? It seemed to me they went the other direction. And if you're going to do that, you may as well take an area that's really embracing you, that clearly wants you.
Because so many of the areas did. And the fascinating thing that you bring up is that this was such a publicly conducted search process and yet a privately negotiated actual transaction. So the transparency, they had it on the one hand, but not on the other, and perhaps on the side where it counted the most.
Sure. And I mean, obviously, Virginia made all the sense in the world near D.C., politics. They envision a tougher regulatory environment going forward. There were a lot of alternatives to New York City. But again, I think there's lessons for both sides. I wonder if the city, and particularly for Queens, like if the next downturn hits, they're going to regret not having those jobs. Again, lots of people are coming to New York City, but usually Manhattan.
And John, you guys had a fascinating debate about this with some local congressmen on Squawk Alley earlier who I heard the example being pointed to by the congressman who was opposed to this deal of the Tesla factory in upstate New York, which seems like kind of a throwaway at this point. And obviously the Foxconn deal has gotten terrible press, and rightly so. I mean, those two projects, what makes them different is they were kind of pipe dreams, right? They were areas that didn't really have the existing infrastructure, but were meant to develop it. And you hear tons of places always announce, we're building a new Silicon Valley, and it never goes anywhere.
Right.
New York already has jobs and growth and a subway system. This was just going to bolster that. Is that the difference here?
Well, maybe it would. I mean, I think it's false to argue that every incentive is bad. If you look at South Carolina, what BMW did down there, the auto economy that sprung up, clearly that worked. And we've had more than 25 years to look at that working. In this case, New York has had Apple, Google, SAP, others making commitments to move in. It's not as if it's just Amazon. And there are a lot of renters in Queens who, frankly, weren't going to see a lot of benefit from this. If you're not in
I can
tech,
understand. I would expect most of the opposition to come from right around there, because they'll say, oh, our rents are going to go up. It's going to displace us. It's a massive construction project. The subways are overtaxed. But I guess that goes back to your point, which is those constituents need to feel like they're actually sacrificing something for the greater good. When they said we're going to shut down the L train, I mean, people felt like, okay, my life is going to be massively disrupted, but it's for a greater good. It's
but your home, though? Do you really want to sacrifice your home for a greater good?
Well, I mean, I think they had to make that case, and that's what didn't happen. And again, I think the governor and the mayor also should have helped them realize, and they could have done things. I mean, they could have come in and said, here's what we're doing for the local community. Or how to grandfather
some people in. I mean, I don't know exactly how that could work.
And Amazon should have known. I mean, people like you protest when big tech moves in. They data-wise know what happens in areas like this. So the fact that they just dealt with the people in power, didn't address the people on the street until late, maybe they learn from this moving forward. We'll see. But the fact is they need an educated workforce. They made the argument that the D.C. area and the New York area were the only places where they could find it. They still need to find those workers somewhere.